Good evening, and welcome to Merryband Productions presents In the Shadow of the Full Moon. It's a two-fisted noir tale of a Seamus trying to protect a dame from her past and finding more than he bargained for in the deal. So, sit back, prop your feet up on the desk, grab a cup of joe and flavor it with some bourbon and give a listen to tonight's story. If you think you saw something moving in the corner, you're probably right.
2 a.m. Tuesday. The bars have discharged their customers with the traditional farewell of you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Not being New York or Vegas, the city settles down to sleep before the alarm clocks ring in a new workday. The moon reigns over the night like a giant bloodshot eye, moving closer in its orbit to peer at the few remaining denizens still awake at this hour. The die-hard hookers looking to make one last trick from the drunken sots who failed to score the local meat market. The stoners making a munchie run to the local convenience store. The late-shift candy makers working to avoid the heat as they bake the flavored syrup coating onto the ever-popular jelly bean. All is quiet in this Midwestern city when, from seemingly nowhere, a wolf's howl breaks the stillness of the night, and I wake with a jolt. I sit upright, a ringing in my ears as my dream of the city begins to fade. What woke me? Was the howling wolf real or part of the dream? Gradually, the ringing coalesces into the ringing of the telephone. Perhaps that's what disturbed my slumber. I haven't been sleeping all that well lately. I've been having bizarre dreams that seem normal until I wake up and realize they don't make much sense. Like the party of vegetable people in the hospital morgue. I'm still trying to figure that one out. The ringing phone demands my attention. I answer it. Hello?
I'm sorry. Did I wake you?
Not really. I was having a hard time sleeping.
Me too. I woke up with a really bad feeling, like something's wrong. Are you okay? Is anything going on?
Calm down, Mary. Everything's fine. I did have a weird dream, but nothing to get up about.
What was it? Maybe it's a premonition or something.
It was nothing. Really. Mary, just go back to sleep and I'll meet you for lunch.
Have you heard anything new? Did that list of names help at all?
Mary, I gave the names to a friend of mine on the force. He's running them down and I'll get an update in the morning. Now just calm down and go back to bed. I'll know more at lunch. Everything's fine. Really.
You're sure?
Yes, I'm sure. Now get off the phone and let me get my beauty sleep, huh?
Okay, I'm sorry. I just had a really bad feeling that something bad was happening, and I couldn't shake it.
I know, I understand. You're stressing out over nothing. Really, now go back to sleep and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
But...
No more buts. Go to sleep, young lady. That's an order.
Okay. Good night.
Mary was a good egg. A little high-strung at times, but a sweet kid. I didn't want to upset her more by telling her that I had an uneasy feeling churning butter in my stomach. Something was bothering me, but I couldn't quite pin it to anything in particular. I looked out the window at the city skyline. The moon was shining all right, looking perfectly normal and innocent, but it wasn't fooling me. I knew it was up to something. I just didn't know what. I went back to the sheets and closed my eyes. The next day, I paid a visit to a former college roommate, best known to you as Detective Anderson of the Homicide Division. Hey, Andy! You want to take a coffee break?
Yeah, sounds good, as long as you're paying.
Ha ha! What else is new, you mook?
And to thine own self be true. Let me wrap up a few things here. I'll meet you down at the corner shop in a few minutes.
Okay. I'll see you there. I hadn't been waiting long in the coffee shop when Andy came in, carrying a manila folder.
I see you've already ordered for me.
Just the way you like it.
My man. I ain't got a lot of time, so let's get down to brass tacks. This list of names you gave me is turning into a real hot potato.
What do you mean?
3 of these guys are dead, as of last month.
Dead? How?
According to ME, cause of death was animal attack. Probably a pack of wild dogs.
No shit.
It gets weirder. I talked to the doc personally, and he thinks that based on the bite radius and the spread of the claw marks, that the animal in question was most likely a wolf. A big one.
That's crazy.
Exactly. Where are you going to find a wolf in the big city? They aren't even found in this part of the country, outside of a zoo. And before you ask, all zoo wolves are accounted for. Medical examiner figured people would react the same way that you did, so he listed it officially as a pack of wild dogs. It's way more believable.
I see your point.
There was a joke going around the squad room that it was a werewolf. Lon Chaney and all that stuff. It was worth a laugh until one of the new guys tried to requisition silver bullets. And now the captain's put a kibosh on it for fear of the press getting a hold of it. The way social media is today, we'll have every nutcase calling up about his neighbor by the end of the next full moon. It's already crazy enough and we don't need that shit.
It's amazing the ridiculous shit people are willing to believe.
Tell me about it. So now it's your turn. Where'd you get this list? Mary, seriously? Your girlfriend?
Hey, she's not my girlfriend, alright? We just like to spend time together.
Uh-huh. You better not wait too long to tap that ass, son.
Oh, Christ. Andy, she's 10 years younger than me.
Yeah, and when you're 60, she'll be 50 and no one will give a shit. I say go for it. Get a little happiness for yourself.
Hey, she's Catholic, huh? She's saving herself for the marriage.
And you're going along with that? Oh my God, you're in love with the bitch.
She is not a bitch, alright? She's a really good person once you get to know her.
My point exactly. You, my friend, are in love with this girl. That's why you're having me investigate this list on the down low, while you pro bono her case.
Look, this is strictly professional, She's a friend, a good friend. I'm doing her a favor, all right? End of story.
Yeah, keep telling yourself that.
You know, sometimes you can be a real grade A prick.
I know, that's why we get along so well. Look, you've always been there for me when I needed you, and I've got your back. You know that. I love you like a brother. I mean that. Whatever you need.
Right now, I need a lead to follow more than anything. Did you turn up any likely probables from that list?
Most of them are pretty white bread, no criminals, no priors, other than traffic tickets. One name that stuck out, though, this dude, Silas Warren. He checked himself into a psychiatric ward for 6 months, and he was just released prior to the first killings. It's thin, but it may lead to something.
I'll check into it. Thanks.
Dickie's in love.
Hey, the song is Chucky's in Love, I'll call you if I find anything. You know, I've got a date with a girl I am definitely not in love with. Repeat! Not in love.
Whatever you say, my man. See ya! Wouldn't wanna be ya!
Andy was right. I was in love with Mary, but I couldn't let him know that. The consensus of the male population was that Mary was the kind of girl you have fun with while it lasts, but not take too seriously. You had to be a real sap to fall for her. Well, I am a card-carrying member of the Sap Brigade, my friend. I met her while I was chasing down leads on a missing persons case. I handed her my card like I had done with dozens of other potential witnesses, just in case she remembered something useful. The next day, she called. She didn't have any new information, she just wanted to know what I was up to. I tried to give her the gentle brush off, but she wasn't taking the hint. I didn't want to be rude, so I figured, what the heck, couldn't hurt to talk to her a little bit. It turns out, she was real easy to talk to. And it didn't stop there either. She called me up every day after that, just to talk. At first it was a little annoying, but eventually I got used to her calls. Even started looking forward to them a little bit. We talked about everything. It's not easy finding a broad you can open up to and be completely honest with. before I knew it, I was head over heels for the girl. Then the bombshell dropped. She told me she met another guy and was in love with him. My heart broke. I was devastated. She introduced us, and I had to admit, he seemed like a really good guy. I was down in the dumps. Then, 2 weeks later, the sun came back out when she told me that she'd lost all interest in him. Now, logic and reason dictate that I should have dumped her right then and there. But when you were in love, brother, you do stupid shit for stupid reasons. The heart wants what the heart wants and all that jazz. It turns out that this behavior, it was a pattern with Mary. She'd meet someone new, get infatuated with him, then lose interest after a couple of weeks. Through all of this, though, she'd always keep me close. It wasn't what I'd call a healthy relationship. I was always worried that someday she'd meet a new fella that she didn't lose interest in. Then I'd be completely shut out of her life. Like I said, card-carrying member of the Sap Brigade. But I was in love. And when you're in love, logic and reason just go out the window. I was living in fear of a tragic ending, which is why I didn't want Andy to know how hard I'd fallen. I'm not stupid, okay? I know that I'm a fool for sticking with her. But the only thing worse than staying with her would be losing her. God, I hate being in love. Having reached that conclusion, I arrived at the Quail Creek Country Club and Stables in time for my lunch with Mary.
You made it. What's the news? Are you okay? Did you find out anything?
Now buck up, little camper. We're supposed to be on a lunch date here. What do you say we order first? Then I can bring you up to speed with the business.
You've been listening to Merryman Productions presents In the Shadow of the Full Moon. And now for a word from our sponsor.
She was a waitress, working in a diner until the right guy came along at the wrong time. Now she's on the run with half of the world's intelligence forces on her trail. See Order 86 now. Starring Lori Catherine Winkle and Coleman Crenshaw. Visit order86movie.com for details.
And now back to Merryman Productions presents In the Shadow of the Full Moon.
Mary, being a vegetarian, ordered the eggplant parmigiana. I ordered the chicken fried steak. After we ate, I pulled a little surprise from my pocket.
A sheep!
I remembered you have a little thing for sheep, so when I spotted this porcelain dingus...
That's so sweet. I love it.
Yeah, well, I thought it might soften the blow for what I have to tell you.
What?
That list of exes you gave me. 3 of them died last month.
Oh no. But I don't understand. How can they be dead? What's the connection?
As far as I can tell, there is no connection, other than that they were on your list. You've got a stalker. I'm still tracking him down based on that list you gave me. At the same time, 3 of the men on that list have been killed by some kind of animal, which is weird. It could just be a coincidence, but my gut is telling me that there's some kind of connection I'm not quite seeing.
Are you sure? I know how you are with these feelings of yours.
I trust my instincts, all right? Sometimes I just know things I have no logical reason for knowing. I get an impulse to go somewhere, and when I follow it, I find someone or something I was looking for. I can't explain it, but it's never wrong.
And when you ignore it, you find out you missed something important. You've told me multiple times, Dick.
Like, I know it sounds like a bunch of hooey-balooey, Mary, but it hasn't been wrong yet. I'm telling you. And right now, I think I need to pay attention to it.
You do what you've got to do. I don't want to hear it.
Mary, I'm serious. I don't know what it is. I can't control it. The only reason I know it's real is because I have experienced it. I don't know how or why it works. I call it the universe speaking to me. Maybe it's God. Maybe I'm psychic. Maybe it's my subconscious mind doing the math my conscious mind can't do. I can't prove it in any way, And if anyone told me what I was telling you, I'd think that they were crazy or delusional too. But just trust me on this, all right? If I ask you to do something based on a feeling, please, just do it. If I'm wrong, no harm, no foul, all right? But please believe me if and when the time comes, please.
All right, Dick. If and when the time comes, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
You know, it's funny you can believe that Ouija boards are real, but my instincts aren't.
You've made your point. Ouija boards are objects. People lie or are just plain delusional. You're right. It's not fair to doubt you, but I can't help myself.
I know it sounds like crazy talk. Hey, you want to know who's really crazy? The cops at the precinct. There's a rumor going around that those men were killed by a werewolf. Have you ever heard of such nonsense? Mary? Hey, are you okay?
I'm sorry, what?
I've heard of people going pale, but this is the first time I've actually seen it. Are you okay?
No, I'm fine. It's nothing. I just got a little dizzy is all.
I can understand why you might think Ouija boards are real, but werewolves? Seriously?
Silas used to claim that he was a werewolf. It was kind of cool until it got weird. I broke up with him, but he wouldn't stop bothering me. He kept saying he was going to bite me to win me back.
And you're just bringing this up now? Didn't it occur to you that he might be the guy stalking you?
No. He checked himself into a mental ward. He's getting the treatment he needs. He couldn't be the guy.
Mary, Silas Warren was released a month ago.
I didn't know that. I need to think. I'm going for a ride to clear my head.
I felt a twinge in my gut. Something was off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I followed Mary out to the stables where she saddled up a horse while I leaned against the corral fence. The horse nickered, and I heard a voice in my head say, "Don't let her ride." Then the wind picked up.
Are you sure you don't want to ride with me?
Horses and I don't get along. You shouldn't ride either, Mary. Look, actually, I'm asking you not to get on that horse. I've got a bad feeling.
Don't be ridiculous. I've ridden this mare hundreds of times. She's as gentle as a lamb.
Mary hoisted herself up into the saddle just as a gust of hot wind blew dust into the air, stinging my eyes with grit. As the wind reached Mary, the horse reared up, throwing Mary to the ground, where she landed hard on her hip, crying out in sudden pain. She looked up at me with annoyance, then tried to move and winced in pain. I helped her to her feet.
So was that one of your gut warnings?
Yep. But I'm not going to say that I told you so.
You just did. Okay. I promise. I'll listen next time. God or fate or the universe is obviously sending a message. Oh, look. The sheep you gave me. It's broken.
My next stop was to pay a visit to Silas Warren. I wanted to suss him out, see what kind of character I was dealing with. He was a soft, pudgy guy living in his mother's basement. His skin was pale, like he hadn't seen the sun in a month of Sundays.
What can I do for you?
I want to have a talk with you about Mary Boviday.
What's it to you?
Someone's been harassing her, and I thought you might know something about it.
Oh, is she getting upset? Good. That bitch deserves every bad thing that happens to her.
I take it you're not a fan.
Jesus Christ, did you get that? Did you get the hint that I was not a fan? Jesus Christ, you're trying to be her white knight. Is that it?
I'm looking out for her.
Well, you better get away from her as fast as you can. Look, I'm telling you this. Listen, she's nothing but trouble for any man. She collects men, she gets what she wants from them, and then uses them up, and then tosses them aside. She did it to me, and she'll do the same thing to you.
I highly doubt that. I heard you checked into a psych ward for a while. Is that true?
Yeah, I did. I did, and I'm not the only one. People do it all the time. But that was all her fault. After the way she used me, I had a nervous breakdown. I needed to sort some things out.
What did she do to you?
I don't want to talk about it, especially to you.
Are you sure it wasn't because you claimed to be a werewolf?
Did she tell you that? It figures. The proper term is lycanthrope. It's a mental disorder, where a man believes he transforms into a beast, usually under the full moon. And for the record, it's bullshit. I never said that. I told her I thought it would be cool to be a werewolf, not that I was a werewolf, because that would be fucking crazy.
My mistake.
I'm done talking to you. Look, that bitch deserves whatever happens to her. I just hope I get to see it. Hope I get to smell it. Don't get me wrong, I'm over her. Okay? I don't have those feelings now, but that doesn't mean I won't get some satisfaction from anything bad that happens to her. Like if she catches on fire. Fine. Just go, that's fine. Now go away, fuck off, Avitazane.
Well, it was pretty obvious that Silas still harbored unresolved feelings for Mary. I could tell that he was lying about the werewolf thing, too. Could see through him like a single pane of glass. Even though he denied it, he really believed he was one. And my gut was telling me that he wasn't a passive observer when it came to causing Mary harm. I was convinced Silas was the man I was after, but I couldn't do anything, no siree, not without evidence. I'd have to catch him in the act. And you know what that meant. That's right, using Mary as bait, and I didn't like that one bit. But you have to play the cards you're dealt, see? And I was holding a pretty weak hand. I went back to my place and collected my spare rod, a wheel gun. I made sure it was loaded, too. Put it in my pocket. I had a feeling it would come in handy later. Then I called up Andy and asked him if he could put a couple of uniforms on a stakeout in Mary's apartment, just in case. My evidence was pretty thin, so it was a big ask, but he told me he'd make it happen somehow. Love that guy. So I poured myself a bourbon and sat on the sofa to plan my next move. I must have been tired because I don't remember falling asleep.
If you've gotten this far, you already know that you've been listening to Merryband Productions presents In the Shadow of the Full Moon. And now we pause for another word from our sponsor.
When Frank Emerson stole the world-crippling virus his employer created, he knew he would have to get it as far away from himself as possible to keep it out of their hands. He never suspected the level of danger he would place an innocent actress in when he secretly passed it off to her. Who Will Survive Order 86? A new book by Alex Paxton based on the movie that has the critics talking. Visit order86movie.com for details.
And now back to the exciting conclusion of Merryband Productions presents In the Shadow of the Full Moon.
When I woke up, the sun had already set. Everything was dark. I checked to make sure I still had the gun, made sure it was loaded, then headed over to Mary's apartment. When I got there, I spotted the black and white outside. Good old Andy hadn't let me down. I went over to the car to see if I had missed anything. I had. The officer inside was a bloody mess. He had been thoroughly slashed around the face and neck, so he was barely recognizable as human. I ran to Mary's front door and began banging on it to wake the dead. I prayed I wasn't too late. The door opened and Mary stood there in her nightgown.
What's wrong?
Come with me. It's not safe here.
Why? What's going on?
At that moment, I heard a wolf's howl coming from the back of her apartment. Mary turned,
What's that?
curious to seek out the source. I grabbed her arm and ran like hell in the opposite direction. She stumbled and fell, so I picked her up and carried her in my arms. I ran into the nearby wooded parkland area and set her on the ground next to a tree while I caught my breath. I handed her the gun.
What's this? I don't want a gun.
Take it, just in case. It's real simple. You point it and pull the trigger. There isn't a safety, so be sure of what you're aiming at before you shoot the damn thing.
What's happening? You're scaring me.
I looked upwards through the trees. The moon was shining full and bright through the leaves. The moonlight provided good visibility, for which I was thankful. I turned back towards the apartment and spotted a figure loping towards us. He'd be on us in a few moments.
Please, Dick, what are we going to do?
Trust me, I'll find a way to stop him. But if I don't hesitate to use that gun. Aim for center mass and you can't miss.
Okay, Dick. But I'm frightened.
I turned to face the oncoming figure of Silas Warren. For a pudgy guy, he moved fairly well. He paused briefly to howl up at the moon like a wolf. The butcher's knife in his hand gleaming in the moonlight, the edge rusty with dried blood. That's when it happened. The hair on the arms grew coarse. The fingernails elongated and hardened into claws. The teeth extended into fangs as the nose elongated and the ears grew into sharpened points. It took almost no time for the transformation to be complete. Instead of words, a growl emerged from my throat as the monster inside me took control. The wolf's consciousness overwhelmed my own as my awareness began to slip away. I was the werewolf Silas had only pretended to be. The wolf's instinct took over as my own rational thought and logic began to recede into the background. The look of shock and fear on Silas's face was satisfying to the beast I'd become. Myself, I was able to retain flashes of claws ripping through flesh, fangs tearing out a throat, blood spurting between my jaws, wetting and matting my fur, the warm, gooey substance sliding down my throat. My fangs pierced his eye sockets. My paws pushed into the sides of his head as my claws penetrated his eardrums, and I literally ripped his limbs from his body in an unbridled fit of rage. How dare he terrorize my female? My tenuous link to the mind of the wolf gave me to understand that this attack was more than an urge to hunt prey. It was an action of a domesticated dog defending its pet human from a dangerous threat. As the rush of adrenaline subsided, Silas's soft, pudgy body lay in stillness at my feet. He would never threaten Mary again. At the thought of Mary, I turned to face her, still struggling to retain some semblance of my human self. The look of horror on her face was distressing. I extended my paw in an effort to calm her. I tried to console her, but only a throaty growl came out. She raised the gun in a trembling hand.
Stay away! Oh my God, please stay away!
As I took a slow step forward, trying to plead with her, the gun barrel flashed twice and two powerful slugs ripped into my chest. In a slow, surreal motion, I fell to the ground. The wolf monster inside me surrendered control as a flood of suppressed memories came forward into my mind. I had been the werewolf all along. Because I was afraid of losing Mary, the wolf had embarked on a campaign to eliminate all rivals. That was the connection to the list. Silas was the only real threat, and now he was gone. What Mary didn't understand was that the wolf loved her too. He would have never harmed Mary. It was his love of her that drove the viciousness of the attack. Now, the wolf whimpered in hurt and sadness as it faded into the background. I returned to my human self. Mary dropped to her knees next to me, tears streaming down her face.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
You're safe now.
Please. Please forgive me.
As the final blackness enveloped me, I made a mental note to tell Andy one important fact. The bullets don't have to be silver.
We thank you for listening to Maryband Productions Presents In the Shadow of the Full Moon. We hope you enjoyed tonight's story. The part of Dick was played by Tommy Waller. The part of Mary Bovedai was played by Jessica Whitfield. Christopher Pryor played Andy Anderson, and Curtis Smith was Silas Warren. Tonight's excellent script was written by Richard Buswell and directed by Alex Paxton. Now don't forget to click like and subscribe to get all of our updates as they become available. We'll see you next time, and have a happy Halloween.